Hey guys, welcome to the TexAgs Rewind presented by Specs. We're in the Rollo Insurance studio. And Nick, what did we have on the Rewind today?
I just want to say, what'd that take, Kaylin? 3-4 minutes to get rolling on that finally? You did perfect, Kaylee. That was great. That was perfect. We had OB, we had Luke Evangelist talking Aggie basketball after their disappointing loss. Had Michael Earley talking about the Vanderbilt series and Billy Liucci for a long time, but you get about 3 minutes of it on this rewind.
The offense went into hibernation mode for almost 6 minutes.
Yeah.
No buckets, a couple free throws in that time. They went away from what was working, which was going to Pharrell Payne, who was dominant in both games. And March is about guard play, and unfortunately guard play wasn't at its best this weekend. Wade had his moments, but overall the team just couldn't hit shots against Michigan, and Michigan in the second half hit their shots.
It was, like you mentioned, Pharrell Payne was excellent. He was 10 of 13. A&M was something like 23 of 71 overall. So if you take Pharrell Payne out, A&M shoots 29%. And Pharrell Payne was even more productive than I figured he'd probably around 15 or 16. So he's even more productive. But we knew that if A&M was going to be able to beat Michigan with their 2 7-footers, that they were going to have to make perimeter shots. And they did in the first half to a respectable degree. But in the second half, Wade Taylor hits a 3 with 8 minutes to go. A&M has a 4-point lead. They get outscored 25-9 from there. They hit one of their last 9 shots. They missed their last 5 3-pointers. When the other team has a decided height advantage, typically you're going to have to make up the difference by shooting 3-pointers. We talked about when Michigan beat A&M in the Sweet 16 7 years ago when A&M had Robert Williams and Tyler Davis. They hit 14 threes. I think A&M had 7. And like I said, they missed their last 5. And it got away from them. And Wade Taylor, as hard as he plays and as good as he's been, was 1 of 8 from 3-point range. Yeah. And that's a guy you rely on.
What were they? He was 2 of 14 in both games combined, I believe it was.
I guess.
Yeah. Did this team, and I think there's 2 answers for this, did this team meet expectations?
I would say no. I would say the expectations were to
get to the second weekend.
To get to the second weekend. I thought even if you lost in the second weekend, then you did. But
my question isn't what went wrong. We all know what went wrong. What went wrong this season, if something went wrong? Because, you could look at this season and it was like, hey, it was a really nice year. Yeah, we didn't get as far as we wanted, but it was a nice year of basketball. I enjoyed this season a lot. You're never going to reach, unless you win a national championship, you're never going to be happy as far as, you always want them to go further.
Yeah.
But I expected more.
Yep.
And I still had a good time.
Yeah. It's weird to grasp because people are always going to ask the question, was it a successful season? Did it live up to expectations? And I still think it was a good season. They just did not live up to expectations. If you're preseason top 15, you should reach the Sweet 16. If you're a 4 seed, you should reach the Sweet 16. And for all the great moments they had, they still just can't win in March. But that doesn't take away from the Auburn win, from how monumental it was to beat Purdue, beating Texas Tech. Those are major wins that you're going to see hopefully have an impact with the transfer portal open, that A&M can say, look, we are building something special as one of the best programs in Texas. They just have to get over that hump. And I think the game plan has to be to offensively, you got to find people who can make threes. Yeah. And you got to replace one of the most consistent runs of backcourt production that A&M's had since AC Law, where it was 4 straight years of Wade Taylor, Manny Obaski was in the mix, and Hayden Hefner was there for 5 years. It's going to be a different year next year with fans having to learn new faces and new names, and you're not going to have that luxury of knowing 95% of the roster when the season starts.
Texas State's still playing.
Yeah.
Is Auburn still playing?
Yeah. I know, and it stings even more because A&M beat all these teams. They beat 5 teams in the Sweet 16, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, and you talked about the guys that are going to be gone. You took one player and you put his jersey, or not his jersey, but his jersey, up in the rafters while he was still playing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fine to say, you expected more, especially when you have that guy plus 7 other guys in their last year of eligibility.
It's kind of been a revolving door in left field out of necessity, and then nobody stepping up and claiming that spot for day in, day out purposes. You've given a lot of guys chances out there, but with the defense playing better, much better now with Ben Royo at second, does the defense now factor into lineup decisions on who's on that scorecard to start in that starting 9?
Yeah, it has to. I mean, just with how we're playing, and Royo's not particularly swinging the bat well. He's playing a really good second base, so more than good, like awesome second base. So we got to make it better at the plate, and we will. So yeah, defense is definitely a factor. As left field, it's like who wants to take the spot, and you're exactly right. Nobody is. So it's going to be a revolving door and it's going to be a revolving door mid-game, even more in-game than you're accustomed to seeing. Like I'm talking, you might get one at-bat, and you can argue about being comfortable, this or that. It ain't about being comfortable anymore. It's about production. So you better learn to compete and get it done and have a quality at-bat, or we're gonna keep passing the baton.
Well, I feel like you're passing the baton to me now to ask this question, seeing how you answered that one. Any health update on Caden Sorrell, Josh Stewart, Isaac Morton, all those guys?
Yeah. So Sorrell, I'll meet with my training staff here today, but we'll see. I think it is very likely you see him in some capacity this weekend. What that capacity is going to depend on him. Like I cannot run that guy out there for 27 innings. So you could see pinch hit, you could see DH, you may see a game in the outfield. We'll see. There might be a situation where, talking about, shot may have to go to left, and which is tough on him. I mean, he's got a torn meniscus, and that's the reason he hasn't been out there. So, but it's a situation we're in. You might have to try some things and push the buttons and try to get something out. But you'll see Sorrell in some capacity. What that capacity is, the days leading up to it will let us know. But he ran on Sunday and felt really, really good. So that was really good to see. And then Josh Stewart, I don't think it's likely you see him this weekend still. I think this week will be a major week for him, kind of seeing where we're at. And then Isaac Morton, hurt his oblique, but he was off the roster this weekend. He'll be reevaluated this week, and we'll see where he's at.
Expectations versus desired outcomes, I think, are completely different things. And I asked the question earlier, did they meet my expectations? And I broke it down in a couple different ways, Billy.
Okay.
Preseason expectations, I had this team going to the second weekend of the tournament.
Same.
As the season unfolded, I questioned if that was was it a realistic outcome? Sure, with the right matchup. But I always in the back of my mind wonder, these scoring droughts, so are they going to come back and bite you when you take on these teams that are good, right? Like that. And so did they meet my preseason expectations? No. Did they meet all of our expectations? They didn't meet our desired results. Mm-hmm. But I don't think losing to Michigan in the second round of the NCAA tournament is like unheard of. Like that's a good program that was playing very hot basketball at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I'll start with, they won the Big Ten title. I heard you say they were hot. They were hot. It was a game, when you watch the game the way it was played, A&M should have won that game. You ratchet down when you're up 10. You finish off that game because that's why you're on the court. And when you control a basketball game midway through the second half, you should win it. Period. They know that. So I'm really disappointed in the outcome of that game. How long do I think the run would have lasted? I would probably have felt a lot worse had Creighton knocked off Auburn. It's just beating Auburn in Atlanta. if that game was anywhere but Atlanta, I think that's going to be a tall order for Michigan or anybody. But if anyone was going to do it like a lower seed, teams like A&M or Ole Miss could do it, being familiar with Auburn, and particularly Buzz versus Bruce Pearl and the success he's had against him. So there was a little bit left out there, but A&M, even though they beat Auburn at home, they were not better. So I don't feel like I feel like that path, that was the big roadblock. It wasn't Michigan. Okay, so you can say, well, they didn't get an unfair draw, and I agree with you because people are going, well, had they not screwed up that 3 seed, they made it hard.
They may have had it harder.
But see, you say that, but yeah, okay, so they're a 3 seed playing Ole Miss or BYU in the second round.
BYU looks like, yeah.
Did you watch Ole Miss last night? So it's not that.
Thanks for listening. This was the TexAgs Rewind.